All right. Hope everyone's having an amazing time so far. I would like to welcome our next speaker, Mr. Alan Right Turn Morales. Give it up for Alan.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you, Lindsay Schultz, wherever you are. As self-publishers, we are, thank you. We are struggling to get our word out there, so I appreciate what you do to help us bring in an audience and get our word out. And so thanks for everybody for being here. I know this is kind of early, so maybe the recording will work a little bit for getting more people's attention later. But so anyway, so if you guys are ready this morning and awake, good morning. Can I get a shoo-wee? Shoo-wee! Can I get a heck yeah?
Heck yeah!
How about a come on?
Come on!
Even some parts of Kentucky say, come on, Pawpaw. So anyway, so I wrote a book about the Appalachian Trail. What a lot of people don't know is how old and ancient this beautiful, mystic mountain range is, the Appalachian Trail. 3/4 billion years old. It's older than the rings of Saturn. Can you imagine that? That's pretty old, right? And so do you ever hear of like Pangea? I know you younger folks probably remember. It's like one of those questions you ask, are you smarter than a 5th grader? So when Pangea was formed, the old Appalachian range actually kind of like got destroyed when it congealed and formed its big little bubble there, whatever it was. And when it broke apart, it got even flatter. Well, 65 million years ago, some more volcanic activity allowed it to grow even higher and form what we're looking at today, only 65 million years worth of wear and tear. So imagine all those years and years, and don't forget about the glaciers, right? About 20,000 years ago, when the glaciers started melting, that retreated and formed lots of crevices and formations that we get to walk through and see. So this really mystic, beautiful range is what's exposed now, and you don't get that when you hike any other parts of the world. On top of that, this is the 100-year anniversary for the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, or the ATC, which is 100 years worth of starting up what we know as the Appalachian Trail today from Georgia, Springer Mountain, Georgia, to Katahdin Mountain of Maine. It's held up and sponsored by regional maintenance clubs all throughout it, and there's 31 trail clubs. So as you hike along the trail, I've learned about all these things, and so I'm able to introduce it to you, such as, is there anybody who knows what a thru hiker is? Show of hands, is anybody a thru hiker? Yeah, a lot of you don't know what that is. I didn't really know about it. What about a lasher? A long section hiker. That's what I am now, right? So I wrote this book to introduce to you guys what a lasher is. And you learn a lot of stuff, including like what are the animals out on the trail. You get a lot of like black bears, you get a lot of elk, you get a lot of boar, coyotes. Has anybody been in the middle of the woods and heard like a whole family pack of coyotes howling in the middle of the night? Yeah, that's actually pretty creepy when you have no house to protect you. And recently last year I've been hiking through Vermont, and I've been coming across a lot of moose. So actually moose droppings, correction. When I came back down off the mountains and I joined a group of hikers that I've been seeing for the past few days, we all said, man, I wanted to see a moose. Because we know they're around, we're seeing fresh scat from the moose, and I mean they're huge piles of pellets, and about 8 of them in one section. So there's a whole family up there at the top of that mountain I was at, but we never actually saw the moose. So anyways, this is flying through pretty quick. So I guess I'll introduce about myself first. In 2016, I decided to start section hiking the Appalachian Trail with a fellow friend from my college, and so when you go out there, this is just a vacation off of work. You're taking about a week off of work, right? So we stretched it into 8 days. And so I started in Springer Mountain, Georgia, and what we would call Novo or northbound, heading our way towards Katahdin, right, Maine. Following year, we hiked again as much as we could, maybe 6 days, maybe 5 days, maybe 4 days. Well, that's not enough time. Your body just starts to acclimate to the woods. You're just starting to recognize what the smell of a bear is and the smell of yourself when you're hiking multiple days without washing, and how greasy your hair will feel after that. But in 2020, pandemic year, I was finally able to ask my job, can I take 6 weeks off of work to continue this beautiful trail that I've been doing? And they hemmed and hawed about it a lot, but they agreed, and very thankful of that. So for 6 weeks, I was out there on the Appalachian Trail. After 1 week of being out there, I hit what they call the proverbial wall, mentally and physically. And I said to myself, what the hell am I doing out here? I've got 4 more weeks, 4.5 more weeks, I can be in Hawaii. I could volunteer with some organizations on the beach somewhere. What am I doing out here? I stopped in a place called Uncle Johnny's in Irwin, Tennessee, and recovered for the next 2 days. I literally had booked 2 nights to stay there just to try to think about what my next decision would be. Right? They say make an educated decision, not when you're all emotional about it, right? Because I guess you could say I was very emotional at the time. Very burnt out, very ready to get the hell out of there, honestly. But people were showing up, not because they were section hiking or through hiking, but because they hiked that area before and they loved the area of it. They loved the Appalachian Trail. They loved the energy. They loved the vibe. So they just came back to stay a night and just savor that again for a moment and reconsider, can they come back out and do more sections? Everybody's always saying, I always wanted to do that more sections, right? I just heard that, right? And I realized that I'm out there because I loved what I had been through so far in the previous years. I love being outdoors, I love the disconnect, and I love nature. And so I said, okay, let me try this 1 more week. And I did. And then I tried another week, and on, until I finished 5.5 weeks of hiking that year, and I hiked over 315 miles. So imagine how I felt afterwards. And so one of the things that a lot of people don't know is that, first of all, it's a very social trail. You're going to come across a lot of people while you're hiking out there, and you're going to come across, and that's what the book really entails, is the social aspect of it, the fact that you're going to come across people who you really connect with and become known as your tramily. That's your trail family, right? These are people who look after each other. And so I wanted to write that about the positive benefits that you get out of there. And I realized that I wanted to write and try to encourage people to come out there, and not so much about through hiking, because that's taking 6 months out of your life, quitting your job, maybe divorcing your other half or something crazy. And instead, which I don't know if I mentioned, it's going to take like 6 months to complete the whole thing. I'm just encouraging to do a long-ass section hike, which is more than 2 weeks. If you're out there for 5 weeks like I do, it's amazing. And so I think at this time I'll mention some of the benefits that you get from hiking, right? So I've developed a website, which is basically called my trail name, Right Turn, and it's on AT, so Right Turn on AT. And this is a blurb that I got as a blog on my website from the Cleveland Clinic. Reduces risk of heart disease. Imagine that, you're just sitting there pumping away and blood's pumping through, and you're going to develop your heart as a muscle. And I got some stories about people who do the entire section, who towards the end their heart was like, or their chest pain, come to find out, was the heart beating so hard and growing so big it was pounding into their chest cage, right, the rib cage. Pretty incredible. Big muscle. Lowers blood pressure, as you can imagine. Tackles obesity. I don't know how many people I've come across while I'm out there who are actually doing the entire through hike, 6 months, because they want to lose weight. Some of their trail names, right, and by the way, just like my trail name is Right Turn, you're going to get a pseudonym, right? One guy's trail name was 225, because that was his goal, was to drop from like 400 pounds to 225. Well, by the time I met him in Virginia somewhere, northern Virginia, he had lost more than, that weight. He was below 225, but he wasn't going to change his trail name. Maybe 205, it wouldn't make sense at that point. They know him by 225. Reduces anxiety and depression, of course. Improves sleep. All those health benefits improve sleep. Helps build strong muscles and bones. When it comes to building strong muscles, just think about the actions of hiking and how that can help keep those muscles activated and engaged. If you're walking uphill, if you're working your quadriceps muscles, but then when you're walking downhill, you're working the same muscles just a different way. Improves arthritis. One of the awards that we get for getting older is we're getting arthritis in all our bones, right? That's a good positive way to look at it. I don't know if most people call it an award, but it is what it is. Nothing we can do about it. Well, it improves arthritis, especially in your knees. You read a lot of the books, you'll see that I have many issues with my left knee, multiple surgeries. And guess what? I've gone through and I've found different ways, including abstinence of alcohol and improving the posture of my shoes, shoe inserts, etc. That my left knee that's had multiple surgeries, I no longer get swelling of my knees. It's incredible. Helps with balance. Just imagine you're walking through tons of rocks and roots, and what's happening to your feet when you do that? Wobbling all around the way? Well, hopefully you're not walking too far, or too fast, or too far, for that matter. But it's a gradual, progressive training that you're doing. The smart way to do it, and this is my book, is to acclimate and get your joints used to the ruggedness of the Appalachian, like I was mentioning earlier. And on the back of my book, this was from when I was joined with my buddy from college who invited me to go to this crazy trip of kayaking in the Everglades for 8 days with a group through University of South Florida. And I thought how crazy it is. Okay, sure, I'd love to kayak and I love the nature and all that stuff, but to be overnight, for this was well before I did the AT. This was back in 2006. But to kayak in the middle of nowhere with a bunch of people I don't know for 6 to 8 days. And finally, after his nagging for 3 straight months, I decided to join this cheap trip. All food is included, kayaking, all the equipment is included. Just go. Just go was his mantra for me. So finally I signed up and went. Well, it took me 3 days to learn how to better kayak so I'm not sitting there snaking and exerting twice as much energy as everybody else is just going straight down the path. And also to sleep at night, because I sat there and watched the stars pat the entire night over the sky. So after 3 nights I was able to finally sleep, which your body needs to sleep because it recovers and your muscles recover and you get more energy after that. And I was able to kayak a lot better. And I was able to appreciate, the pigeons, the pelicans, the other piece, not the dirty pigeons. Who wants them? They don't want to be out there. The dirty pelicans pooping on the leaves. All the marine life, you see actually sharks and porpoises or dolphins out there. And it took me that to figure out when I got back that I literally was slowing down at the pace of nature. And I was disconnected from the society of the fast pace of life, the everyday news, the bombardment of just everything that you get, and found a disconnect and the total immersion of nature. So this has become my copyrighted slogan here. to slow down at the pace of nature. And when I did that with the Appalachian Trail, I found that. Healing with nature. This is as close as I could find with somebody who had written about slowing down at the pace of nature. They wrote a book called Ecotherapy, Reconnect with Place. We can learn to resist the constant rushing around and settle and tend into beloved locations. Reconnect with companions and wild animals. Animals slow us down to our natural animal rhythms, which is why animal-assisted therapy works. Reconnect with plants. A simple pot on the windowsill slows down to the pace of seedlings, a leaf and a flower. Reconnect with cycles of human life. Instead of demanding that we remain in perpetual teenager mode, the preferred state of our society, allowing ourselves to become true, initiated adults and then elders honors the natural pace of human life rather than fighting it. Just go with it. Go with the flow. And reconnect with our wild bodies. Untamed nature is to be found not only in our faraway wilderness, but in the wild of our bloodstreams, our digestive processes, our breath, and practice that brings our attention back to our bodies is wilderness ecotherapy. Yoga and ecstatic dance offer release from the controlling modern ego and access what eco-psychologists call the ecological self. And once we reach peace, once we reach peace with our animal bodies. So, sound engaging to any of you yet? I see a couple of head nods. My fan club is not nodding. I don't know what you guys are here for. Greg is down. Thank you so much. All right, so I guess let me read a little bit from my book, just to give you a little bit more idea of where my head is at when I finish the Appalachian Trail. This was the conclusion of what I felt and reflected on at the end of doing that first long section in 2020. So it's in previous years I had transporters take me back to my SUV, which would be parked at the beginning of my 4 to 8 day hike. This usually took about just 20 to 30 minutes to drive back from that transporter back to my beginning point. This time, after the 315 miles, it took me from the beginning point of my hike, which was Hot Springs, North Carolina, 3.5 hours to drive. 3.5 hours of driving is what I hiked in that 5.5 weeks. The impact of what I did hiking over that amount was just unimaginable. I felt like I hiked so far and experienced so much. As I drove through looking out the window of my SUV, watching the cluster of canopy-filled mountains go by, I couldn't help but think about how there are trails up there with people living their lives from shelter to shelter as part of the trail community, which my heart was still part of. I finally called my sister to tell her I was finally done, because she wanted me to do that. So it was done just to make sure I was still alive. Thank you, Lena. And she replied as soon as I told her, "Wow, you're done already?" I said, "Already?" She didn't know and couldn't understand how each and every day felt like an eternity, full of challenges, adventure, and struggle, just to continue on and to survive. I realized then how valuable this experience as a lasher was for me and anyone else who could do it. The disconnect from your everyday routine of work and home without much challenge from it allows time to pass unnoticed. And being away from home, my bed, my cushy bed, my bathroom, the hot showers, hot water, my friends back at home, and everything else for so long, 5.5 weeks, allowed me to realize how valuable those things are to me and to enjoy them just that much more. And I had plenty of time to learn more about myself, the good and the bad, which I have learned and need to work on and prioritize what I want to really do with my time. Something that I now know truly is important to me. I'd like to hopefully inspire people, which this book, to find yourself backpacking a long trip on the AT. And to help find and to help you find yourself, or what makes you really feel alive, to find your magic, to find your mojo. Yeah, it's in there. You gotta read the book. Find what can really challenge you and push you to your limits. Overcoming those challenges will make you a stronger person for it. And why wait? As the saying goes, you could die tomorrow. How dry. It's true. This is your chance to find a pseudonym. Test your abilities to survive in the woods. Learn to deal with being uncomfortable. Feel real fear and physical pain. Yes, Amy, fear. I felt fear. Find your strengths, find your weaknesses, and dig deep to overcome adversities and persevere. You'll be meeting tons of people, a whole new community of trail people from all walks of earth who are kind, generous people. Even months later, as I lay down on my cushy bed at night, I find myself missing the nights sleeping on the platform, in the wonderment of the woods, feeling so much stronger, both physically and mentally. You have to experience it for yourself to understand. So go ahead, slow down at the pace of nature, and have a good hike. I have a question. Oh, I just forgot his name. Ted Turner. Who here knows Ted Turner? You're aging yourself? No, more people know Ted Turner. Come on. Ted Turner. He's the guy who started up CNN. Multi-wealthy guy. He has, in his retirement, thankfully spent a lot of his money in buying millions and millions of acres of land here in the U.S. He's preserved, okay, this beautiful country throughout the many states, not just in the out west, but, you know, Georgia to Utah, New Mexico. The country is very beautiful if you haven't gone out to explore, especially outdoors. And the documentary that I saw from his son, this preservation allows people to travel and to stay a few nights and to witness his untouched nature as it should be. Okay? And these people who get this experience to go out on these amazing trips, obviously these people are wealthy as well, because you know he's going to make money off of this, right? But it takes them, okay, the opportunity to get out of what I mentioned, your everyday lives, and to be in this secluded wilderness, in this immersion, like I do when I'm on the Appalachian Trail, to get it. And that's what you don't understand. And I can only bang my head on the desk trying to explain to you the disconnect, the total immersion that you see and feel from hiking on the Appalachian Trail. So again, unless you guys have any questions, this is a lash is what my book is for, to encourage you not to, you know, you can, if you want to take 6 months out of the year, more power to you, Greg. If you just want to still hold on to your job, who's thankfully kind enough like mine to allow me to take 4 to 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks off of work during the summer and go backpacking. This is a subtitle, the go-to for beginner backpackers, right? Throughout the book, I highlighted key tips that I learned along the way that's going to help you learn what you need to use while you're out there and be like, okay, let me not do those mistakes that Right Turn made. Right? Greg? I know you're listening. Thank you. One person's listening. No, I'm kidding. And and to also find yourself, right? So find yourself physically out there and find yourself what you want to do with the rest of this time on there. And like I said, I realized that my opportunity is to try to reach out to you guys and allow you the introductory of what the Appalachian is about, and to be brave enough to go out there and experience it for yourself. There's a whole chapter at the end of the book called Tips. So this goes from training, whether you're in bad shape and you've got all kinds of aches and pains. Well, you got to start at least a year before that. At least a year, okay? Just progressively, starting small. You have to start somewhere, okay? You have to find that commitment and go out and start small. If you're in good shape, 6 months before, okay? Because you got to start getting your ankles and your joints ready that I mentioned before. Because you don't want to go out there and sprain your ankle and be like, or your knee and be like, okay, I'm done. Let's not ruin it, guys. So be smart about it, understand what your limits are. And then if you're in great shape, you go to the gym 3 times a week, you got your cardio going, 3 months. It still takes 3 months just to get your ankles ready and stuff like that. But speaking of learning of yourself, and of what you want to do, like I mentioned when you're out on the Appalachian Trail, one of the constant themes, and by the way, I'm going to be writing a book for the next lashes that I've been doing. I've been thankful my job has allowed me to continue on for that amount of time to do a lash each year. So I'm going to break down a book of each of those so you'll have more information about what is within that section, because there's so much to witness on the Appalachian Trail, including the thru hikers. I wanted to call one the plight of the thru hikers, because it's amazing what they go through. And now I've gone so far north that I'm witnessing various stages of those thru hikers. But the struggle continues even within me of my limitations and of what physically my body is going through. And I word a lot of that into the book. And you figure now, this past year, as an experienced backpacker now, I mean, hey, I wrote a book about it, right? I should know what I'm doing. I still experience different problems. And you have to sit there and constantly think, what is happening? And that's hard to do under duress. You're sweating, you're tired, you're achy, and you're learning more and more about yourself, as I am, and it has not finished yet. So, before I continue, does anybody have any questions? Greg?
What got you out on the trail the first time?
Because of that buddy that got me out there to do the kayaking trip
In the Everglades?
in the Everglades. He became a teacher, and he has his summers off. And he said, okay, I have summers off, what do we want to do? Oh, let's go backpacking from all the national parks. So